view our situation right now. Well, we can see that from where we stand, it seems like there's a team of somebody that they review everything we say, and then they have another team that fulfills that void. They take care of that, And when you see them after a few months or a year or so, they're dealing on a good level. When you first hear them, like when they first invaded Iraq, they had them generals on TV, or whatever. They didn't know nothing about what they was talking about because they wasn't up to speed on Iraq. Now you get them some months later, they've studied it, or even when they went home that night, they read 2 or 3 articles, at least they knew something about it. Okay, if you look at some of the people that we've discussed in the recent past, they are on the money as far as, we done had the Triangle of Terror for I don't know how long. In fact, we had the Triangle of Terror, from UC Berkeley, and it must have been 89. Then before that, it was 87, because at that time we was dealing with South Africa, we was dealing with Israel, we was dealing with the United States. So Saudi wasn't in the picture till later on. So we said the Triangle of Terror are those colonial states, the United States, the Israelis, the Israelis and South Africans. Imagine, soon as Mr. Mandela come in, they destroy their atomic secrets. South Africa had an atomic bomb. As long as they wasn't no Negroes around to do it. But as soon as he got in there, they just said, that's it. No atomic bomb for Negroes, no. And we could see basically where they were coming from. Now, with Mr. Netanyahu, with all the problems he's having in Israel now, you don't see hardly any of it on the. You would think the guy was the chief of they got a demonstration every day, every day. But you never hear about it. And our team is doing well. Not only Yemen, I was paying attention to what they were saying today, because they're having a meeting in Saudi Arabia today. Okay, that meeting in Saudi Arabia was to let Qatar back into this little Arab Union. That means that Qatar has beat them. When you hear it on their news, they saying it like, what's his name, Kushner or whatever, he was over there, and it was wonderful the way he's going over there, and this is another feather in the cap of, it ain't no feather in the cap. All those Arabs, including Egypt, told Qatar, if you don't do this and if you don't do that, they had 13 things they were supposed to do. Qatar didn't agree to none of them. They didn't agree to none of them. And they said, you got to get rid of the Turkish Air Force. You got to stop dealing with Iran. See, when I leave here, there's a non-stop flight to Doha in Qatar. Then there's an 1.5-hour flight to Tehran. And that's it's the best and it's the cheapest flight you can, Qataria, that's the airline. And that's the flight that I take all the time when I go to Iran. Is from here, it's a 13, 14-hour nonstop flight to Doha, And then from Doha, you got a other flight to, but now Al-Qatariya is all over that part of the world. They closed the airspace. You can't fly over airspace, Saudi Arabia and all that. Okay. They said, okay, that's all right. They kept dealing with Iran, and that's what was burning them up. Iran and Turkey, see now, they wanted them to close down Al Jazeera, which comes from Qatar, and all that. And they're not a dynamic station, but compared to what you get here, they don't do too bad, And now Al-Qatariya, Al Jazeera in Arabic is probably better and to the point than what we have. I met some of the reporters. In fact, when I was going to Iran, they was at the airport going to Qatar, So when you look at what's going on in Yemen, that means there's certain friendly people that they are winning. You're dealing with everything that happened in the Middle East, they're winning. You deal with Iran, Iran is probably the best, technically they're doing a good job. There's a few things we would like for their foreign ministry, except for the little shenanigans that they do. But like they got the idea now. All the information I get, they got the idea. They know they was taken for a ride. Because boss man told them, if you ain't never, they have enough information to know boss man. The first CIA coup d'etat was Iran, 1951 to 1953. That's the first thing that they had. Okay. Then 1954 might have been Guatemala or something like that. But everything that's happening in the news right now, we're not doing too bad. With everybody against, everybody is against. They can bomb and kill the people in Yemen like it ain't against the law. They can invade all of our people. See, they've invaded us. We haven't invaded nobody. They talk about Iran, they have to change its behavior. Iran haven't invaded nobody. Everybody's invaded Iran, or not in Saddam's time. Right now, ain't nobody going to invade Iran. That's why Saudi Arabia and all of them is working with the Yahud. They've been working under the table, but the Gulf Council is now, some of them is openly working, with the Zionists because they have something in common. They all hate Iran. And when you look at the map, you can see what's happening. There's nothing they can do about Iran because Iran takes care of this whole side of the Persian Gulf, right? And they are on the other side, and those are little people. And to have, this is the 6th year of this attack that they had on Yemen. With all the stuff they done used, broken all the laws, and they haven't gotten anywhere. They should be ashamed. So right now, this thing with Qatar, they trying to get Qatar back on board, but Qatar done already told them, no, man, you're not messing with us. We ain't doing nothing you say. So they broke them. They broke the other states. They broke Egypt. They broke Saudi Arabia. And, what's the name's plans is all haywire. What's the old prince over there, whatever his name is? That boy haven't done nothing right. He can't do nothing. He just, not equipped. Now that's good because he's exposed himself. And just imagine they cut the man up and put him in a suitcase or whatever and take him somewhere. And it's nice, our homeboy, he can do whatever he wants. But see, the manifestation of defects is necessary sometimes. In every decline of a great civilization, a lot of the defects in the civilization or in that state have to come to the top. And that's the way it is right now. All of what the United States, and look, they having a thing down in Georgia today, right? But you can see, well, why don't Don be quiet after he did this off? Because his job. We said clearly his job was to destroy the Republican Party. After a while, we said his job is to destroy the Democratic Party. And it's clear his job is to bring down the United States of America. And all even his friends is telling him, if you're saying the elections are nothing, then the world is going to think, hey, why should we follow you guys? Your elections, you're degrading the elections in the United States to elections in third world countries. You know, where they send Jimmy Carter around to monitor the elections or somebody else to monitor the elections. They're going to have to rejuvenate Jimmy Carter, pump some life back into him, and have him monitor the elections here, right? Because imagine if there's so many people in America, they say, the stuff they say about Donald Trump, they're lying a lot. In other words, he got these many followers, that many followers. I don't think the people in America are dumb, but those crackpots don't have those type of numbers. You know what I mean? This is just my belief now. They got big numbers, but when he go to an airport and speak, everybody out there, half of them is paid. They got to be paid because what was the Negro that was on his team? They had a thing in Oklahoma and the man died. It's too many people after he had one. All the people, look, everybody in the White House had coronavirus almost. I mean, and he studied talking about, no, I don't do that. I ain't doing that. Well, eventually, if he said publicly, which we heard him say, that you go and use your little bleach and a little lighting, you know, little whatever kind of lamp he was talking about to light yourself up. You know, radiation, and that might be helpful. And then he was leaning over talking. I was watching the poor white lady, used to wear the scarves, used to be, her legs was coming, you know, when girls feel uncomfortable, their legs come together and their feet go out like this. That girl, she wouldn't even look up. She said, and he was just rolling like, okay, now, so they all in it. We'll put our finger on exactly who's who and what's what and how it's all working very soon. But we do stay on that subject because what's the latest thing that he always do? He stay in the news all the time, but you just can't give him no case. What do you call it? It's down there in Georgia. Hey man, give me, what's up, man? I can stand 11,700 or something other, right? What I must do, man? You know, it's like a regular old dumb conversation. Hey, this guy has already destroyed America for what it was last year. He's made every classical mistake in the book. I don't know, for the last week or so, Agha Soleimani has been on, they've been showing him and Mohandas over and over and over again. And that was clearly a mistake. You know, it was a mistake on all levels. First of all, he's the only guy, and the world knows it, that was effective against Daesh and ISIL and all that. And these guys, just yesterday, they cut off people's head. Hazaris are Shias in Pakistan, but they look different than all other Pakistanis. When we would go to Shia programs here, they have an Asian look to them, but they're Shias. And there's a whole tribe of them from Pakistan. And when you see them, you know what you're looking at. And they just killed a whole crew of them yesterday. The point is, we should be prepared for all the information coming our way is going to be positive for us. It won't be positive for the people it's happening to. You know, like our friends here getting this, they getting that. It won't be positive for them, but in the world view, things are heading in general in our direction. So the title of the subject today is Saintly Strategy, Saintly Tactics, Saintly Procedure. So how does this have to do anything with us? Well, you know, all along, we've been talking about doing good and, you know, and being appreciative and grateful and thankful. And if you do this, Allah will give you more, right? So now if you think about it, what policy would we adopt if we know we're under 24-hour surveillance, we're under this, that, and other? And it's clear, I mean, because everything, whenever they want to touch what we're doing, they just reach out and touch it. And they got a whole, it's clear to everybody that they got a whole team. And God knows how many people is on that team. You couldn't even estimate. Because that means is if I walk outside in the middle of the night, here's somebody come. And I do it all the time just to see. Or you look up the street, somebody just rustling and they turn on their lights, you know, and what have you. That stuff all the time, it's no problem. So we have to have a strategy that's different, you know. So should it be, we'll have a revolution and we'll get guns and we'll shoot all government officials? No, that won't work. Because anybody you talk to is going to be on the government's team. That's just the way it is. It's been like that. It's been like that for a long, long time, decade after decade after decade. On some levels, it goes back over 50 years. You know, very clearly, it goes back over 50 years. On this level that is on now has been in vogue for 40 years, and some of it for the last 19 or 20 years, since 2002. And on high level, minute per minute, let's say for the last 10 years, easy. Okay, so what should we do? So we was coming up with workable strategies. You know, you have to analyze, what about this strategy? What about these tactics? Well, what in the world are they not equipped to? That's why not years ago, but last year we talked about spiritual jihad in Oakland. Spiritual jihad in Oakland. Why do we say spiritual jihad? Because they're not prepared. They're prepared for everything but a spiritual struggle. As long as we use the asset of spiritualism, We can't lose because they got everything physical. We can't win that. It just don't seem like we would. If we wait around another 30 years, America will be so weak and stupid that, and things will have changed so much. So we've thought about a saintly strategy, saintly tactics. Now, that's one thing. I want everybody to think back. Have they ever heard anyone even mention a Negro that's in the struggle as saintly? Revolutionary, activist, but never saintly. Now, even in our struggle, they would give you a beautiful picture of Martin Luther King, but he messed with girls on the side. And he would get angry sometime and all that. But he was never a ho-hum, just saintly. Imam Khomeini, you ever see in his book, Islam and Revolution? Did you ever start at the back?
I never started at the back. I know you said it, but I never started at the back.
But when you get back home, just look in the back, you're going to see Jihadul Akbar, spiritual jihad, all the jihads, jihad and nafs, all that type of stuff. And you could tell, wait a minute, this man was an Arif. This man was a Sufi. You know what I mean? And that was one of the things that they were saying. This guy is a closet Sunni, because Irfan is the Shia version of Tasawwuf, but they're very close to the same thing. And if you read Imam Khomeini's, a lot of his writings, I tell you what, if you read Imam Khomeini's writings on, he wrote them in 1939, 1941, they were not Kashif al-Asrar, uncovering of secrets, but the 40 Hadith. Have you ever read any of the 40 Hadith? Okay, and what about Imam Ghazali? Do you notice if they're talking about piety, if they're talking about sabr, you could put Imam Khomeini's writing here, and you could put Al-Ghazali's here, and shuffle them up, and you wouldn't know which one was which. Have you ever noticed that? No, try it sometime. Read Al-Ghazali's main work, and then read Imam Khomeini's work. Because see, in those days, his basic works are irfanic, irfan, urafa, So that's where he's coming from. Okay, so now, and the tactics he used, I remember the press used to say they'd show pictures of Imam Khomeini when he was in Paris sitting cross-legged, and they was almost not making fun. But who is this spiritual guy? They taking all the tapes and taking them to Iran and playing his tapes and all that. He's on a roll. But you would look at him, and everybody knew about everybody else, but they didn't know anything about Imam Khomeini. Example, Sayyid Qutb, Maulana Maududi, all of those people, right? But the Muslims knew about those people, but the Muslims did not know about Imam Khomeini, except in Iran. They just didn't know. With all the studying of, in those days, we was really studying the Islamic movement, and because, you have to study. We knew certain things, We read Muhammad Qutb's book, Said Qutb's brother, Islam, the Misunderstood Religion, or something like that. And the brothers would go there and they would ask him, hey, why you not making no big moves? Your brother just got martyred, or your brother's books, man, was something. What's happening? And he would basically tell them, there's nothing, I'm a guest here. And that's what Saudi Arabia did. It allowed all the guests. Think about Idi Amin. Where did Idi Amin live the last 20 or 30 years of his life? Idi Amin, the big monster. He lived in Saudi Arabia. Our brothers would go ask him, Sheikh, what's happening? I said, man, good life. I got the good life here. You want me to say something stupid? I ain't gonna do it. Because, that was Saudi Arabia's job, to cut the throat of the movement so all Ikhwanis could go to Saudi Arabia as long as they kept their mouth shut. As long as they kept their mouth shut. So that's how Saudi Arabia crippled the movement. They crippled the movement by teaching them perfect Arabic, but by the time they finished, nobody was doing anything. And I think about South Africa and Cape Town, the judicial, whatever they are. When I used to go there a lot, all of a sudden, they homeboy that went to school with all of them in Saudi Arabia, Abdullah Hakim Quick, pops up over there. Because the people of South Africa like our delivery. Is something about that American Negroes, they just like it. They like it. They admit it. Hey, man, we like the way y'all talk, They like it. They just like it. There's a lot of assets that we have, and I'm telling you, I could tell you names of other people. As soon as I start showing up there, here they come. As soon as I leave, they waving goodbye. Okay. So what strategy should we use? I'm going to go to the point. If they're the big, strong power, right, and we are organized, clarified, and we got where we want to go, but how are we going to break through that wall, penetrate that wall? By using weapons that they're not used to using. And that weapons that are not at their disposal. So saintly strategy. Now, this ain't nothing new. We've been using this. Remember all the talks for years, forgiveness and love and da-da-da-da-da. That's what it is. So here's where we are right now. Saintly tactics. The procedure, and this became really clear in the last period, because you have to analyze what they're doing. You have to analyze also what you're doing. What are we doing? What does it mean? What does it look like? So our saintly strategy has to be also somewhat rational and coherent. And as the Quran say, access to reason. This policy here is not talking about exactly ours, but it do relate to something very close to ours, that this Quran, this movement, this policy is available for anyone that's reasonable. That's Surah 12, Surah access to reason, aql, reason. See, Sunnis don't use aql much, but there's some people that what's being said, what's being done, has to be also some access to reason, akal, reason, which everybody understands what akal is, but a lot of people may not adhere to it as close, but we do. So it should be rational. It should make sense. It does make sense. It's clear to sense that there's a big army. They have everything. Everything in the physical world, they got it. They can push a button and everything. Okay, but they don't have spiritual access because they don't understand it. And no matter how much information they have, they don't believe it. They don't believe it. You could show them the fall of the Roman Empire. I was talking to the FBI down there when I went down there. So this man, that might have been 10 years ago. I said, do you guys ever read any history? Do you ever read, just maybe, fall of the Roman Empire or anything like that, Well, you guys believe in martyrdom. And I said, yeah. I was sitting down there waiting. And you know what the wall said in back of me? It had FBI Martyrs Wall. You can have it? We can't, huh? Oh, no, we're not doing that. You can have martyrs that died for the cause. And they went to heaven, probably, where else would they go? They white. Huh? True patriots. They gave their all. They blowed the whistle, folded up the flag, and gave them to their family. And they got a flag, the Stars and Stripes. Like they said, stars on your head and stripes on your back. This is the way the Negro used to talk. Anyway, slavery, suffering, and death. I don't remember if you remember the old blackboard we used to have. They used to have. So anyway, why would you use words like strategy and tactics related to saintlyism? Well, if you look up even a religious founder, not only a good person is related to a saintly, but a religious founder. I gave lectures in South Africa, and they would give me a whole booklet of their founder back in India, and the whole history. Nice, because they know I didn't know anything or not enough. So, a religious founder, the head of a religious order. Now, what is As-Sabiqun? It's a religious order, right? It don't make no difference that it's us sitting here right now, but we are a religious order. We're part of the giant scope of Islam, just like all Catholics are part of so-and-so, but they have St. Francis. He likes little children, right? They have St. Nicholas, that's what they call Santa Claus, because the kids couldn't say St. Nicholas, so they shortened it to Santa Claus, St. Nicholas, No, a lot of words that you see the Tsar. Tsar is short for Caesar, right? And you look at all of those European languages, and you'll find a Caesar in there, a Tsar, you know what I mean, in there. Okay, so language carries on. But anyway, so it should be rational. Is it rational that we would choose something that we have some chance of success? Of course it is. It's rational. Is it irrational for us to choose something and they got all the weapons and they got all the people and they got all of it? Is ignorant to use that. That's why if somebody comes to us talking about we're going to blow up this, I don't even say, well, if you want to blow it up, go blow it up yourself. I don't say that anymore because nowadays that's conspiracy. Yeah, years ago, conspiracy was different than it is now. Now, You just have to be quiet. Well, I declare. You can't say anything that hints to them, oh, you go do that. Now, that's conspiracy. Yeah. Okay. It has to be compatible. It should be compatible with our source of life, which is living, the Quran, Hadith, and what have you. It should be compatible to those things. The goal, the direction, all of that should be compatible. So we have to think, what level are we on in all of this? What does this saintliness have to do with it? Well, for years when people would steal radios, cameras, shoes, or anything from here, it's been 20 years we've been saying, may Allah make it halal for them. I don't know if y'all know. May Allah make it halal for them. That statement's come from Imam Zainul Abidin, the fourth Imam. But we've been saying it too. Those people are classified as Urafa and higher. They're technically Imams. Well, if we do the same thing they do, why can't we be that? Why do our goal, or what we want to be, our self-image, have to be Chairman Mao or Stalin or Lenin or somebody like that? Why? Does the Sunnah of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam exclude our order adopting Quran, Sunnah, right? Traveling in history, going around and see, and our experience. Why can't we have people that, why can't, I'll just put it in English. Why can't a Negro be a saint? Why do they always have to be somebody else? We used to have on a thing, in fact, they use it in South Africa. Greatness of purpose, smallness of means, and astounding results. That is one of the Western definitions of greatness. Greatness of purpose, smallness of means. You don't have nothing to make this happen. And astounding results. When we had some programs in South Africa, we had that on all our stuff, and I said, let that speak for Imam Khomeini. Greatness of purpose to establish a revolution that survived past his death. Imam Khomeini died in 89. It's 10 years after the revolution. Every anniversary was considered a miracle. Can you imagine any state before Iran surviving? Could Nicaragua do it? They had the same thing in 79. What? Iran-Contra, all this and that. And pretty soon, they bottled up. You know what I mean? Fidel Castro went there. All kind of people was pulling for it. But it doesn't have the same level of independence and what have you that the Islamic Republic has. And has had, what is this coming up? Is this 42 years? Or 40, this will be the 42nd year. Because the brothers, they called me and said, we want you to do something or other in February 13th, 42nd. I think it is 42nd anniversary of the Islamic Republic. 42. So if we say, may Allah make it halal for them for stealing some shoes, right? If that's what one of their great personalities would say, if we say the same thing over and over and over again, they say it once. We say it over and over and over again. And we ourselves are facing unbelievable, look, it don't make no difference what nobody say. The more challenges you face, the bigger you get. They must have forgot that lesson. It's a rule. It affects everybody. So what are these dummies doing? If they got you hurting so much one day you can't hardly talk, but you say, I'm going to make a study of pain. I'm going to study pain. Where it comes from, where it go, how to use it. What's the purpose of pain? I'm going to make pain a laboratory. We're going to embrace pain. That's what we said last week, 2 weeks ago, right? That's what we did. That's exactly what we did. And that day we was talking about it, that was one of the most painful, it was not one of the, it was the most painful day of my life, technically. It was unbelievable how they could have you, so if you move, just one move, you hurting, right? So, we say we're going to embrace pain. Like run after it. I love pain. Well, when you do that, eventually you're going to conquer pain. And we got it easy. What about those people that need hydrotherapy and those people that they have a small chance of ever walking again and all of that? Okay, we know that we're going to be walking either this week or next week, or it don't make, you know what I mean? So if they can do that from a wheelchair, why can't we do our struggle from a crutch, just getting by? And what happens? Whatever, you have to think, is this internal? After it comes so many times, right? Is this something that came internal? Is it something coming from an external source? Well, after a while, you can just study yourself. Have I touched anything? Have I did? What have I did? Da, 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 da. Internal. That means that this is an internal thing. That whether it was in 74, when they clipped you or tagged you, like they tag animals, but they did. They did that. The whole reason that thing coming looking here, we just want to check up there. And so they did what they call a biopsy. Yeah, a little biopsy right up there. So we don't know what they put there. But we know from then on, this is in 74, they didn't have to look for me. Or if I'm running down the trail on the 8th mile, I might shoot off into the woods. Off the woods, the whole thing is big, nice regional parks and hills and all of that stuff. Okay. When you get to the first clearing, there they are, bumping into each other. And you just stay there behind the tree for a while, and you watch them. But they are close to where you are. That means the thing they got. And you don't do it every now and then. You do it a lot, because you got to prove, you know what I mean? One time, that's fine. But no, I want to see for sure, over and over and over again, over the years. Over the years. So now, what about later on? They give you blood tests in South Africa, and then pretty soon they got a reading on what they need to do to you right now to make you do something, whatever. Then you have to go to the hospital. When you go to the hospital, they got you covered. They got, that's it. And they always, then, when you go to the hospital over here and they open up your brain with that history, you mean they ain't got no new gadget they're going to put inside of your head? The people came to visit me, that's the first question, right? They put anything, and yes. Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. They give you a headache, exactly right. Give you a heart, that's right. No, I'm certain of that. I'm certain of that. I already. Hey, look, I'm a walking. Uh, but to deal with that, you got to get big, and you got to keep them off balance. You got to say, okay, I'm sitting right here, dear world. Now, if boss man do this, if boss man do that, you selling wolf tickets. And pretty soon, well, we're going to change this to psychological guerrilla warfare. And then if he got something in your head, which we'll talk about in a little while, pretty soon you have to face that and conquer that. Whatever it is they put in you, this technology, that does make a difference. They're human beings. You got something, can conquer that. And remember, all colonial powers have always had the native peoples outgunned. Always. The Romans had the Carthaginians outgunned. Except when, what's the name, come over? The Atlas Mountains or something. Hannibal, a couple of times. But over the long run, right, they have catapults and they have all kind of stuff that the barbarians, they're not aware of. And they always kill the numbers of 10 to 1, 5 to 1. They kill the people like that. They slaughter people. The United States have slaughtered so many people in Iraq, it's unbelievable. Okay, this new technology that they have is not new. This stuff goes back so far, it's unbelievable. The Soviet Union is ahead of them on that stuff. Man, back in the 60s, they hit you with a little thing in the leg, and then that thing would travel on up through your body, and pretty soon you was just finished. Not to change the subject, but all of these stuff they blame it on the Soviet Union. They gave him this and they gave him that, and he didn't die. That ain't the way it is. If the Soviet Union gave you, radiated you, or gave you all of the stuff that they got, you just die. That's the way it is. If they gave it to you, the Western Europeans, they gave you enough to make it look like that the Soviets did it, or the Russians did it, right? To blame them. But the people was dropping. The last one that had something like that was about 20 years ago. Somebody said the guy took Shahada. This is a white man. Yeah, from Europe. Hey, man, that boy was laid up in the hospital and he just laid up and died. That's it. Finished. So if they give you some of those things they give you, they can't stop it. Once they give it to you, they got a couple of things they give you, they could reverse it. But a lot of that stuff, you're just gone. You're half falling out and you're dying. And everywhere you go and touch something, you're going to leave a trail behind, right? All they got to do is touch you with it. Suppose we were not spiritually inclined, not saintly inclined. You would go home and close your door and take a rest. Or you would say, hey, I'm going to get me a big house, a big this, that, because ain't nothing else you can do. That's what you would do if you were not spiritually inclined. Because they scare everybody to death. Look what they did now. Everybody. Every time you listen to the news, Black Lives Matter now has a new policy, a new program. Well, they didn't have one when we was going down there. They didn't have nothing. We went out there for weeks telling them that. And they ain't had no program and didn't want to hear it. Now, the first thing you hear on RT and all of them, now they know what they want to do. Nobody had time to think for a week or so or a few days. or listen to somebody and they say, hey, that sounds right. We're just out here running around. And it's all hooked up. And Iran was coming over here. When I say Iran, I do not mean the government. The government of Iran is on a roll. They are the accelerated, their foreign ministry and is good. There's a few things they got to straighten up. They got to straighten them up. It's not me saying it. Soleimani told them. He said, you can't have this division. You know, the vision he was giving was the same vision. It's like we was homeboys. He told them the same thing that I was telling them. Okay? They are surrounded by U.S. agents, and they still haven't broke the back. Hey, man, those martyrs that they gave up at the first part of the war, their credibility is carrying the Islamic Republic right on through. But eventually, you got to tighten yourself up, you know. So we have never been against the Islamic Republic. We've been against some of the policies. And we said, it's been 10, 15 years ago, we said clearly, first time was 2007, whatever, that's 14 years, something like that. This is a while back. We was already very clear that number one, we are supporters of the Islamic Republic, but we're not supporters of these people, non-vilayati faqih type people. The craziest thing in the world would be for them to have different cliques within themselves. But that's a problem that they had after establishing the Islamic government. After you establish an Islamic government among Shias, what are you going to do? They never will answer, they won't even bring the subject up. What do you do with marjiyat? The marjas, the big Shia leaders around the world, 4, 5, maybe 10 of them. Before that kept the unity and the focus. It's a leader that they have, like some people in this country, some another. Maybe 2 or 3 in one country. But that's a system. The marja. But what about when you get an Islamic State, the Shia? Now what are you going to do with marjiyat? Well, the other Shias may be mad at you, and they may say it's haram to have an Islamic government until the return of Imam Mahdi, right? And they might play games. And that's the common belief until Imam Khomeini come along and does this walayati faqih, the rulership of a just faqih, you know, and he brings it out. It's in Shia literature, but it's not heavy. And walayati faqih, they have all kinds of wilaya, you know. Well, anyway, we'll deal with some of that on the 13th of next month. Let's continue. May Allah make it halal. That's a great spiritual saying that somebody has stolen from you, and you don't run around saying, well, who stole my toe? Man, that ain't right. No, you say, may Allah make it halal for them. They stole it. Well, maybe they put on the shoes and didn't know they was theirs. It's possible. So we say, may Allah make it halal for them. Okay, what makes us different from one of these great imams in the past? Is Imam Ghazali and those other people beyond our reach? You have to think about that. Are those people beyond our reach? Suppose we deal in our time with things that they was dealing with then, would we wind up on the same level or higher than they did? It's a question. We say absolutely. we have to remember, we're good as anybody else. If we get the same hand as somebody else was dealt and we play it better than them, what does that tell you? It's not better but for the time in which you live. And other people may smell that. It was over 20 years, it was 25 years, something like that, when Dr. Kaleem Siddiqui made his statements. I didn't even remember those statements. I might have went to the restroom or something and I came back later. But I didn't know why everybody was looking funny at me when I just made the talk. Then Dr. Siddiqui came up and everybody was, then later on he said, what? And then I didn't remember again until we was here a few years ago, how deep it was. I said, he did say that. Well, then now I see why these guys are acting funny. He done told them, this guy here, and you got to remember the other guys, Zafar, Muhammad Al-Asi and them, they treated Dr. Siddiqui different. They pretended like but they thought they knew more than him. Zafar didn't, but they thought they had got the game. Now, I used to walk with Dr. Siddiqui and do all of that. And he used to it was like two strange friends. The same thing was with Dr. Algar. I don't know if y'all maybe don't know. But all of those type of people that was like that, they would say, this guy here is all right here. I don't know, I think Dr. Algar said something about me and some. We was at Berkeley, and he was talking about when me and him was in Shiraz, the plane couldn't land and there was big snow in Iran, and we couldn't land in Tehran, and so Shiraz is nice, good weather and everything, desert thing, near Persepolis. So anyway, I was wondering why all the big people. See, if you got little people and big people, the little people will be jealous of you. And the big people will like you. Now, all the big people in the movement, we was all homeboys. I mean, Allama Zakzaki, all those, they were all, no matter what little different thing we was dealing with in our own environment, we was home folks. And that's rare. I mean, everybody is friendly with each other. But why, even Muhammad Al-Asi, when he first heard me speak up at a program in Canada, he said, you got a gift, don't lose it. And I was saying to myself, I sure don't intend to. Whatever gift I got, I intend to improve it. That's what I was saying to myself. So anyway, the process of analysis, the process of coming to certain conclusions with so much of the facts. See, sometimes you might have 100% of the facts, not 100%, say 80% of the information. And you come to a reasonable conclusion. Some people may have 30%, and they make the right conclusion almost all the time. That's a gift. It's a gift. It ain't. But a gift comes, and I'll talk about this a little later when we close the camera down. The gifts come, and if you take heed to your gifts, just like Allah said, if you're appreciative and thankful and grateful, I'm going to hook you up and give you more. What does that mean? You're going to get better, smarter, and you're going to become good. That's good. And to them, goodly is saintly, right? But nobody thinks of the Negro. Just think about it. If there's one thing you wouldn't call one of the big brothers in America, Negroes, it's saintly. You just wouldn't say it. You know, there's no reason to say that. You won't even use Arif for anything. Now you might use it for some guy, white guy like, what's his name? Hamza Yusuf. Oh, Arif. Oh, he was out there. You know, look, we're not racist, but everybody else is though. Tell the truth. The people are racist, man. And we don't hold it against them. They're racist. If they get past that, that's fine. Then they're cliquish. And there's sometimes you get your clique together, it's good. And at other times, being a part of a clique is bad. To be a part of a clique in Iran now, with the whole world trying to squash you, right? Constantly. It ain't no, we're going to do it this week and that. We're going to roll on you from sun up to sundown every day. Okay. So let me continue. So a good person, a religious founder, a zealot, somebody that's got zeal for something. Saintly policies, saintly procedures. And what we talk about is the evolution of the soul. We've been talking about it almost every week. We talk about that authority and power to do good. And we talk about all those subjects for us. None of these are new subjects. These are all subjects that we've been dealing with. But we're in a certain transformational period right now. See, we're not standing still. No matter what anybody else is doing, if they're working for the government, they're standing still. Because all government jobs are still. You don't move up but a little bit. They say if you work for the government, you'll get 1 year's experience 30 times over. Right, doing your job. You stamp this, you do that, and you'll know how to do it perfectly. After 30 years, you won't have 30 years of experience. You'll have 1 year experience, 30 years over. Because you get experience by doing all kind of things, right? The government don't. If you come in the government, your assignment, if you black, your assignment is niggas. You go over there with the niggas. That's all your assignment. You can't follow white folks around and sit there. One, they're not going to let you be around them. And two, you'll look out of place. You know what I mean, right? So that's not your job. So it's like one of my relatives that was going to university. They said, yeah, the FBI came to us and said, we want you to keep what they interpreted as an eye on the brothers, because this was a female relative. They said, well, we can't do it. They wanted us to just keep an eye on the brothers, you know, and they refused. Or at least they said they refused. You never know. Evolution of the soul. A lot of things that's happening, the people will not give us credit for it. We don't need the credit. We don't need credit. But the evolution of the soul is something that's very important in human evolution. And if people put you in a certain position, you're going to have to evolve. We said it years ago in stages of growth in the Islamic movement, 1 and 2. Stages of growth. We're still in stages of growth. Long as you're here, you're going to be either getting bigger or smaller. You're not going to stay still. So we hope we're advancing. We're going to try to get to saintly policies, saintly procedures that make you stretch. That make you stretch. Jarir radiallahu anhu reported that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "He who is devoid of kindness is devoid of all good." If you're devoid of kindness, it don't make no difference what else you got going for you. It's basically all over. Conduct, as meant in the following pages, is a bundle of virtues and vices. If a bundle of virtues, as defined in Islam, is found expressed in a person, he is called a man of good conduct, a bundle of virtues. 3 years ago in San Francisco, one of the last programs we attended, we told the brothers from Iran, everything is going your way. The world is opening up to you. You don't have to worry. And a lot of people are going to join you and be with you. And you got to have a certain attitude. You have to treat them right. Because when they come, they're bringing their family, they're bringing their hopes and dreams and aspirations. You, talking to the Iranians, have to treat them according to what they're bringing with them and where y'all want to go. So it was all about what they call akhlaq. Yeah, character. Character. See, when you fulfill certain obligations, it improves your character. We'll go on a little bit. Kinds of treatment and conduct. There are 5 kinds of treatment toward the people. The first 3 of them are lawful, and the last 2 are unlawful. Returning good for evil, number 1. This is the best kind of treatment. Such man does benefit to humanity, even doing loss to himself, and has therefore been termed truthful in the Quran. Number 2, refraining from doing evil to one who does wrong. Such man plays a passive part and is therefore good. If people beat you upside your head and you don't return the favor, that means you're better than they are. That's just, everybody knows that. You're better. And they become dummies. The more they act like that, they become dummies. But you just wait around. And you're not going to hate them for it either, nor will you dislike them. Returning evil for evil, it is lawful. It's lawful for a person to go, you going to do that? Okay. We'll take care of that. We'll see about that. Right? That's lawful. As long as you don't exceed the limits. But you can almost try to count up how many times they bust you upside the head and try to get close to it and use the same amount of force and strength, right? Number 4, doing evil for no wrong. This is unlawful. Number 5, doing wrong for good done to one. This is the worst kind of treatment. And such man is called ungrateful. Right. So, there's kinds of good. Good conduct. If you notice, our favorite ayat stresses returning good for people who do you evil. That's our favorite ayat. Okay. Abdullah ibn Amr radiallahu anhu reported that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, the best of you is he who is the best in conduct. That's agreed. Muttafaqa alayha. That means everybody, all the 6 collectors of hadith agree on it. Malik reported that it reached him that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, I have been sent to complete good manners. Muwatta Ahmed from Abu Huraira radiallahu anhu. Abdullah ibn Masud reported that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Shall I not inform you about one who is prohibited from the fire, and about one for whom the fire is prohibited? Every meek, modest, accessible, plain man. Ahmed, Tirmidhi, and it's rare. Every modest, every meek, every person that's accessible. Has anybody watched any of the programs dealing with Abu Muhandis or Suleimani? They were meek, they were modest, they visited the brothers, which people would call the day-to-day brothers, and they hung out with them. Could you imagine the big general and all of that? They driving by to say, hey, how y'all doing today? And they sitting there talking with you. How many people in your family, man? What city you from? You know what I mean? Just like human beings do. The big generals, the bigger they is, the farther away they are. Right? So they're not accessible. This Islam is deep, you know. Bulletproof vest, and he fired half his guards. He said, I'm not firing you, just I don't need all of y'all running around. And they even said some of the motorcycles he rode or people rode him around on and stuff, they wouldn't reach the safety. They saying it was unsafe, you know. That's what Iranians say is unsafe. Now, if you've never ridden or driven in Iran, you got experience coming. No, you got experience coming. Man alive. I used to think Colombia was serious. Man, I took one of my friends down to Colombia at the airport when we was coming back. He was a tough guy. And I was riding with Sheikh Berry up there in Detroit. I don't know the island. Sheikh Berry. He's head of a big Islamic center up there. Man, we was in Iran. I said, man, you supposed to, all the programs is about martyrdom and everything, and you hollering. Because you see cars, and they know what they're doing. And hey, man, over there, they do that. That's what they do. I said, man, you got to be trained in this. And in Iran, it's worse than Colombia. And you see them nice little ladies with just beautiful hijab. You know, and they, hey, man, you can't, the people that call themselves driving over here, hey, man, they don't know nothing about driving. Abdullah bin Sarjis, radiallahu anhu, who reported that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, good conduct, delay, and moderation is a 24th part of prophethood. You got to look at this now. Good conduct, delay. Delay, we talk about it all, man, delay is big. Not only dealing with contentment, but everything. Because you have an idea this morning, and then you say, I'm going to wait a few days, and it looks different. That's why things that be happening to us all the time, we stick delay on it. Delay according to what we feel is delay. And it looks different. That's why nothing can happen to us, we're going to respond right away. You know, this response. Right? No, delay. Put a delay on it. Put delay on everything. The other hadith say delay is good in everything except, prayers and things like that. Ibn Abbas, radiallahu anhu, reported that the Messenger of Allah, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, said, good guidance, good manners, and moderation form one part out of, this says, 25 parts of prophethood. That's getting pretty big. You got to remember, it talks about if those people that do the honest businessman is nearer to Allah, then I'm not gonna say, but it's up there. Yeah, it's up there. These hadith didn't mean we've been putting limits on ourselves. We've been putting limits on ourselves. Let me say it again. Not only I have been putting limits on myself. You got to rise. This is not last year's struggle. We done went through 2020. We have to keep up with the movement. We have to evolve all the time. That's why Mandela went to prison. The movement was a certain level. He came out in front of the movement. That's why he told them, well, the police, why, they're all white folks. The businesses are owned by white folks. The army, everybody in the army is white folks, right? If we come out today and take all the stuff from them, did y'all see that movie when Morgan Freeman played Nelson Mandela, and it was about rugby? Right, the rugby. It's the rugby batch. When they had the white folks rugby team, everybody wanted to get rid of that rugby team, and all of them, when they was in prison, when they was playing Britain or anybody else, everybody on Robben Island always was rooting for Britain instead of the South African team. But when he became the president, he said basically that's all they have. If we take everything from them, right, we're going to live up to what they expected of us. They expected Zimbabwe, they expect, Mozambique. They expect you to take everything from them that they like, right? Therefore, they're going to sabotage your economy and of course they did that, Everybody wondered, why drugs pop up in South Africa so fast? Why AIDS pop up in South Africa just like that, bam, the next day? Well, anyway, it's a long story. So we're not going to overdo it. Aisha radiallahu anha reported that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to pray, "O Allah, thou hast made my constitution good, make my conduct good also." So I can imagine him looking at himself and looking in the mirror. He said the same thing when he looked, Allah, you done made me all right. So now make me inside good as I look. Basically, that's what it adds up to. Make me become as good a person as I look in the mirror. Now, suppose all these people running around said that and did it, followed it up. Okay. No, that's what he's saying. Everybody, the hadith say he's a handsome person and da-da-da-da-da. Now, imagine you looking in the mirror, you say, boy, you's a killer here. Now you got to get as good inside as you look in the mirror. That's why we tell everybody, look, we have to do, when we look in the mirror, we see ourselves. We don't see you and we don't see nobody else. Right? So we're going to hook ourselves up. So to close that part out, we can slip into, it's not something anybody, or we would do on purpose, is limit ourselves. But remember, when we read about these great personalities, what? We can't be that? We can't do that, right? That's self-limiting, and we're not going to participate in that. So, Thursday, if anybody can make it, we're going to deal strictly with what we said before, strictly with management and leadership and writing on letters, and this is kind of like, it's more management. Okay. Are there any questions or any comments about anything that was said.
I thought it was interesting that the point that you made about how Julian Assange could do all those things that got him into the situation that he's in, but he couldn't prepare himself for what he has to do, what he's dealing with now.
Right. Not only that, Chelsea, whatever her name was, they did him like they do niggas. You're gonna be in here in a strip cell, butt naked. You know what I mean? You're gonna do this, that, and he went in a boy, came out a girl. It's okay, you know. It's no big deal. But they don't have techniques that help them adjust to situations. Like, remember, we used to say, oh, if boss man get to torturing us, we'd just say, oh, boss man, you gonna hurt old Musa, I was just playing, all that. Well, that was then, it's not now, because last week we said we wouldn't do that now. That's when we was dealing with pain and what have you. We said, no, we ain't gonna do that, because you just acting a fool. You just hurting somebody just to be hurting them, right? And you watching them on the thing to see, you can see they can't get around. You know what you're doing. It's like it's not only people have, but they have, we know of the surveys 40, 50, 60 years ago. People have white coats on, they have a clipboard, and they have people on this side of the window and that side of the window, and they tell them, you give him a shock, right? They look like they're authoritative people. They got a clipboard, right? So a person shocks the man on the other side of the window. He's half falling all out and jumping up and down, and they keep saying, keep shocking him, and sometimes it goes up and up and up. Some people go all the way. The people is going through all kind of changes. But since an authority figure is telling them to keep on, they do. Who you think they're gonna hire? They're gonna hire that idiot that he can see the man suffering, right? These are real experiences that they do, and these are not new experiences. These are the old ones. They got new ones like you just talked about, the nano, this, that, another. Yeah, that's new stuff. But anyway, was there any question before we?
No, it was just brothers giving us salams.
But you know, I'm going to ask you too to research these. I don't think I'm getting a response from what we're talking about. I don't even believe it that we're getting a proper response. And it's going all around, supposedly. Yeah, I believe something is amiss. Okay, if that's it. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم.